Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of SEPA Paranormal Chronicles. Tonight, I am more than delighted to have Mark Elliott Fults with me. Mark is a psychic medium, a metaphysical physician, a channeler, author, and an artist. Mark, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And we have a mutual friend in Sin, so we can blame Sin if anything goes wrong tonight.
Oh yeah, but she's perfect, so I can only blame myself.
Yeah, that's it. So you are in Florida, is that correct?
I am in Milton, Florida, which is about 30 minutes away from Pensacola.
Okay, so you've got nice warm weather down there, I imagine.
Oh, even now, when they think it's cold, it's 50. When it gets to be 50 degrees at night, they think it's cold here. And where I come from, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, right now, it would be 30 degrees, wind whistling through your house. So, yeah, it's nice. We've actually gone swimming up until Halloween, so.
Wow. Well, if it's any consolation, I know you guys use Fahrenheit and up in Canada we use Celsius. But this morning, walking to work, it was minus 27 Celsius.
No, not for that. Not for this one. No. Because it's like I have arthritis and stuff, so it's like no. We are a barometer, so it's like I stay away from the cold as much as possible.
I can't fault it. It was a tad brutal walking to work this morning, I can tell you. Okay, so what I normally do with all my guests, I'd like to start at the very beginning when you first had your paranormal experiences, and how did that move your life forward?
All right. Well, my mother's mother was very psychic. So I grew up in a family where, they were very religious, but they also believed, because she was just a natural psychic. And if she told you something, if she said a rock was going to fall out of the sky and hit your head, you better be prepared to get your noggin knocked. And so I grew up knowing about psychics and actually, it was something that I was magnetically drawn to because, I have it in my, everyone has it in their system. It just depends upon, each individual. It's like being a singer or being an artist, or it's a sense of smell kind of thing. And so I started exhibiting psychic abilities when I was 6. And when and they started going, shh, 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 So when I was 30, when I was 18, I went from being a Christian to a Wiccan. And because when I was 11, I knew when I was sitting in church in the pew, I was going, I'm a witch, and I didn't know what that meant really at that time, except, I just knew I was something else, something, and what metaphysics does for people is, it's, you're a part of the earth. The earth is, you work in one, you're part of the system. You're a thread in the tapestry, and everything you do, reacts with something else and vice versa. And when I was 18, I joined a group, and then I got trained in when it was still the occult, because we're talking like in the 70s, before New Age. And then when I was 30, I was attacked in a random act of violence that ended up in me dying twice. And the first near-death experience altered me. It really was, it was an amazing thing, but it hooked me up psychically. And so it was an incredible, that part was an incredible experience for me. And then after that, it's like it's like you have to relearn how to be a person. It's like you've been given a different set of tools to use. And so now I'm 63, so it's been 33 years since that transition. And I was pretty good psychic. I'm a pretty good psychic, good metaphysician. But in like January 20th, the very end of a year or so ago of January, I have Marfans. I have several little disabilities, and I have Marfans along with all the damage I got from being attacked. Because at the time I was attacked, because of the Marfans, I was 118 pounds. I'm 6'2". And so I was 118 pounds, 6'2", and three guys who weighed 175 pounds apiece crushed me for 15 minutes on asphalt. And so it gave me a lot of different disabilities, And you can paste it back together, but it's never the same.
Oh, sure.
And the vessel gets broken, but it still holds water, but it's never the same. And about I'm going to say 18 months ago, I had a Marfan symptom where you have hiccups sometimes, and I get hiccups for a week. And I have to go get shots and things to do it, because what it's doing is trying to expand the aortas, the abdominal aorta. So you'll, eventually that'll be what gets you. So I had hiccups for 9 days. I went and got the shots, came home, and the last hiccup I had made me pass out, because after 9 days, it was a lot of, it just was a horrible spasm. And I passed out and I fell and landed on the tub on my neck. And it caused me terrible, terrible, terrible pain. But which that subsided somewhat within 6 months. But my psychic abilities went up a lot. So this year, I've been working on a lot of different projects, and I started doing Zoom ghost investigations because I'm poor. I can't go anywhere. And I started doing Zoom investigations, which turns me into an energy, which when you're an energy and projecting yourself through metaphysics, I'm very good at remote viewing and pushing. And so it turned out it worked really good. And I worked on a project which hasn't come out yet, but an old asylum where they were looking for an old hidden graveyard, and they couldn't find it. And they had someone coming to do sonar to find the graves. And then they had raised a lot of money, and they were scared when the guy got there, what if we don't find it? So they called me as a backup. And I, without knowing the site and all that, I drew a map, drew a triangle where the graves were. And when the guy got there, he goes, well, is there anything you want to tell me? And he went, well, for what it's worth, here's this. And within 2 seconds, he found the graves, which turned out to be 250 graves they found so far. So then, stuff like that. So it's been a very interesting journey this last year. So I would say, I jumped from pretty good to pretty good. So, but I always was psychic, but where I came from, you weren't supposed to say it. It was okay that grandma or granny was psychic, but it was weird for their own children to be. So I've just had I've had a very interesting life. Dropped on my head, talked to the dead. Here we go.
Yeah. So let's just go back a little bit. You said that you had an out-of-body experience.
Oh, yeah.
a lot of people, when they talk about that, they explain it in different ways. So what was your out of body experience like, and how can you put it into normal
Well,
context?
even though I was trained in metaphysics, of course, it doesn't matter what you've done. Death seems to be the great unknown, except, later on when you really get into it, you find out it's not it's not my first time at the rodeo. And when I started dying the first time, and it was a very complicated, very bad situation, because in the hospital, it was trainee month, which is July. Never go to the hospital in July if you can help it. And there were things being done that made mistakes. And also, I just was so delicate that they just couldn't stop it. So they put me in a room to die, and they put me in a room with someone to die. And when I started dying, the first thing that kind of snuck in was I noticed something was different, because I was in horrible pain, because all of my organs were knocked loose from the lining from the sternum down. So nothing was working right. Everything was, it was like having greased water balloons, if you could move. And I was, at the time, they thought I would be paralyzed for a while, because I just couldn't move my legs or any of it. And I began to notice there were other things going on. The machines I was hooked up to started going off. So the nurses came in and were fooling with these machines, and they weren't noticing me. And I noticed I felt different. And it took a minute, and then I went, I feel good. And then I could see at the foot of my bed, I could see this woman sitting at the foot of my bed in a mourning outfit, a little pillbox hat with the veil, and her hand on my leg, like she was very depressed looking, and beautiful blonde hair. And I thought, oh, fudge, here we go. And then as I was watching her, a friend had brought me these, what they used to call jewel tone balloons. So I had like a bunch of like 12 jewel tone balloons. They were tied to the front of my bed. And the weird thing was I could see the woman in the reflection of the balloons. But if you looked, there wasn't anyone there, but I could see her. And then it was like you start to see the projection. And I could see, it looked like sheets of glass here, which it was, which is plasma. And you could see things downloading from it, from the brain, downloading from me. And then beyond that, you could see it looked like a hill with trees in this yellowish green light. And you could see these trees and people moving through the trees, coming down the hill, coming towards me, calling my name. And when they called my name, I began to pull out from the sternum, from the upper chest. I just felt like I was just pulling. And then you could see the tunnel, which is really a different thing than what you think. But I started going, and I got to the very top, where the tunnel opened up to the other side. I got to that upper part, and then I could see the lights and the structure, and then it began to reverse. So then I went back. It took a few minutes, and then whatever had happened, it was like, the lady was there to what, my guide was there to watch in case if I did go, because it wasn't for sure that I wasn't going to go. And since it wasn't my time, and I came back, which that sucked after 10 minutes, then it all starts coming back. You go, well, yeah, I'm alive. And it was wonderful and extraordinary. Now, the second near death experience was different because I'd already had the, almost getting there. And my mother came and was sitting with me because I was, since I hadn't died that night, I was going to, it was going to happen. And, and I had the experience, but it was more shocking. But what it did is it hooked me up. It shocked me out of what I was in, and it took me years to figure out what I really saw. And so, but what you see when people say your life flashes above, what's happening is it feels like you're seeing on a cellular level. And what you're seeing is you're seeing from your third eye right here, your pineal gland. And it's like you're on a little diving board. And when you're seeing this stuff download, is your brain records 3 million hours worth of information. So when you die, what we are is we're like interneurons. We're little neurons that come from the consciousness. We live, we record, and then when we die, it downloads and we go back to the big consciousness, to the brain. And so you see things downloading, the people call you so that you have the chance to just not screw yourself up, because we as people can screw up everything. And a lot of, you feel this oxytocin, kind of this wonderful, lovey, wonderful kind of thing, even though you're still, when I was looking at it, I was going, oh, what is, because I didn't exactly know what to expect. But it's such a wonderful feeling that if you follow it, then you go into the consciousness, and then out of there, then you go wherever you're going to go. But the tunnel is really like a dendrite of a neuron. And it's not really a tunnel as much as a tentacle. But, we have our little axon cord that we have, the silver cord that everyone's connects you to the consciousness. And it was amazing. And it's affected everything I have, So when I've had a lot of very, very rough, weird, bad things happen in life, but you can't begrudge it, because if I hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't be me. And then when I look at my other family members, I thought I wouldn't want to be them for, you couldn't pay me. And I'm like, so this, everything, it goes for a reason. But and I try to tell people, don't be afraid of death. We need to be, and don't be afraid of life either, because being afraid of life is what keeps us from accomplishing. And because I have a lot of disabilities, then I have to worry with the fear of life, dealing with life and issues, because now it takes me so much more to do what everyone else takes for granted. And then the things I do as a psychic, that I'm an artist. Anything in my art field or my psychic field or any of it is, I'm confident, I'm, with it, and I have no problem with it. But what everyone else takes for granted is a difficult thing. And I try to tell people, don't be afraid of life. Don't be afraid of death. Death takes care of itself. You have no control whatsoever. And if it is your time, you're gone. If it is not your time, which it was not my time, the doctors were ready for me to go. They needed the bed. My insurance was not great. So they were like, you need, and because I had poor people insurance, and they were like, whatever, get them out of here. And, and my mother, God rest her soul, she was a trip, but about a month before this, then this was 92. She had been trying to give me, she'd been digging through my father's closet, and she found this lime green leisure suit from 1972 that was ugly when it came out. And she was going, well, it's still good. And I said, it's polyester. It will never rot. And I said, I don't want that. And she kept trying to give me this ugly polyester leisure suit. And I thought, oh my God, if I die, she's going to bury me in that ugly lime green leisure suit. And I will rot. It will never rot. And I thought, I can't die because she's going to bury me in that. And, that's one of those things, if you're so far back in the closet, you got leisure suits, then you have a problem. So,
Oh man,
but I know I'm talking a lot, so sorry.
that's okay. That's
But
okay.
it turned into a wonderful experience. And then the hard part, getting out of it was, learning to, since then I've had to learn to be me. And
Yeah.
that's been quite an interesting journey. So,
so after you had your two experiences and your psychic abilities increased,
yes.
a lot of different psychics or mediums, they hear, they feel, or they see. So which would you say is your best ability, so to speak?
Well, before I had the experience, I could see and I could hear, but I couldn't process it. I could see it, but I didn't always understand it. And after this, because what happens is when you're dying, your spirit is getting out of your body. So it's downloading. And if you don't die and you come back, you've expanded a little bit. So I just came back with a connection to the consciousness. I let a little bit more of a stream of consciousness happen. So now I see, hear, can talk to, and get responses back. I've actually gotten some evidence this year where it's I can pretty well prove that you can talk to a spirit, but and I love channeling, and ever since I came back I just naturally began to do channeling. So I just have a lot of awareness with the hearing, the seeing, and the feeling. But what happens is you understand your aura, your energy field that you create, that starts from your third eye, does the energy field. You Because of the training I had and because of what I went through, I break it down into, I have my own techniques that I do to help protect everything, keep everything structured. And then I learned to just let my system do what it does naturally. I don't overthink it. I just aim, listen, and then go, well, here it is, but I do it through a process. And so it increased everything for me, like I said. And then after what happened to me several months ago, my remote viewing has gone bananas. So, hopefully that's answering what is, the seeing, the feeling, and the understanding. Because now I don't try to control the looking at. I open myself, I have a protective system that I do meditations every day for decades. So I have a protected system. So I learned to let it do its job. And so I listen, and a lot of it is symbolic because a lot of it's so old. sometimes that it doesn't have the language we understand or any of it, so you have your system, we have our own, in our cerebellum, we have our own Akashic library connection from our cerebellum, which is connected to our third eye. And then we have our little Akashic library, and then you're connected to the large Akashic library, which is the big consciousness. So I learned to just open up and be a conduit and listen, and also learn to interpret. A lot of people go in what do they call it? Empaths. A lot of people go, well, I'm an empath, I feel. But that doesn't always mean they know what they're feeling, or what does it mean, or how to process it, but they feel it. So they're an empath. Well, you can, what I've had to do, because I deal with people in different situations, I have to be able to feel it, see it, smell it, and be able to say, okay, this is what this is, and this is, and but if you're connected to the larger Akashic, then you can process, if you don't know what it is, you can listen. It's like going to the internet, because it is the internet. It's the spiritual internet. So you're going to the bigger consciousness internet and typing in that, what is this, and then it filters it and lets you know. And
Okay.
so you just have to be, and you have to have training enough to understand when something's off, or when to keep your big mouth shut, or when to open your big mouth, or when to say, you don't just say things to people, where I've known psychics who've said horrible things to people that ended up not being true. And then I've heard people say awful things to people that I thought, oh, you could have done that a little
Yeah.
gentler, you know. Uh, you're the doctor to the dead, you're not don't be an ass. And you have to know when to do it, when not to do it. You have to also know when the hell to turn around and say, whoop, I'm out of here. My
Yeah.
and
So, would you say, okay, let me rephrase this. I won't say would you say, but can you tell me when you've had some? So I just saw the cat jump up, and I'm going
I
like,
know, I didn't know
what?
he was in here, so we have
And,
entertainment.
yeah, and what would you say have been some really significant examples of your abilities?
Well, I've had several things that I'm really proud of, that I enjoy, but like in the recent year, because it's like I've found new talents, new aspects. And what I have, one thing that happened, like with the asylum thing I was dealing with, there was a spirit that was helping me called Mary. I said, her name is Mary. And she's the one who helped me find the grave. She helped it. And they were looking for someone else who was a main character in the asylum, who had been buried, died, and killed herself, and was buried in a cemetery in an unmarked grave. And they went to the graveyard and were looking for her. And her name was Ida. And they couldn't find it. They just couldn't find where she would be, and her two children. I didn't know anything about their names besides just Ida. And they looked all day, and they called me, and they were like, can you help us? And I said, sure. And I said, look to the left. And they did. And I said, did you ask Mary to help you? Because we had been talking about Mary, and I'd painted a picture of Mary like a month before. And it's this woman with red hair and a blue dress standing in front of a tombstone with a dead tree in the back. And they went, no. And I said, well, ask Mary. So He closed his eyes. He asked for Mary for help, and he felt drawn. And he went to the tombstone, opened his eyes, and then her name was Mary J. Reese. And there was the tombstone. And they took a picture because behind the shape of the tombstone that I had drawn, which I had drawn a pretty good obelisk, there was a dead tree behind it in the painting. Well, behind her tombstone was the tree and the tombstone, exactly reminiscent of the picture. And I said, now turn to your left. And as they did, I said, about 3 aisles back, because I really couldn't see what they were doing. I was just doing remote. And I said, do you see a space for about 3 graves? And he went, yeah. And it was the only spaces in that area that were empty. And I said, that's where it is. And I was able to tell him where she was, where her 2 children were laying. And then he used dowsing rods to find where the bodies were. And but the painting of Mary, which I'll be putting all that evidence out probably in January, it was, amazing. And another one that they were dealing with that they ended up not using for their show. Shoes, everybody's got to have a shoe. And they went to this house, the Ross house. And Cindy Kahn, I think, is the lady who runs it or owns it. She owns the Ross house in, I want to say it's Ohio. And they were doing the investigation, because when I do investigations, I tell people, don't tell me anything. You just set the time. I'll come on and I'll tell you what I see. And if I draw pictures, I'll do all of it. But you don't tell me nothing beforehand. So we went to this place. And they were filming, looking around. And I said, I could see this beautiful little blonde Civil War era ghost. And I said, she was showing me a ring she had found in the basement. And I said, ask the owner about a ring. So the owner goes, no, don't know what you're talking about. Don't know nothing about no ring. The next morning, she's texting him, blowing up his phone, because there behind her computer was at her home, because she owns the Ross house, but at her home, she got up where she goes and sits and fixes her hair. There was this dirt encrusted ring sitting where her blow dryer was. And she was like, what? So it was great. So that's, and I do cold cases with Sin Schrader Hill and Shaw Wooten. And we started working on one that a child that's been missing for 15 years, Kyron Horman. And I could see, he showed me the place, a lamp that he could see from where he's lying. And so I painted it about a year or so ago. And I got directions and I looked up the directions. I found the area. I found where I think he's at, kind of thing. I found some extra clues. So this year has been very strange, interesting and strange. Hopefully I didn't over explain, but that's what this year, that's the stuff I'm really proud of.
And understandable, because it sounds like you've had some pretty interesting results.
Well, it's been interesting. I can, and as a psychic, you're the conduit. You can't take credit. You can only take credit for being the technician. And to me, it's like anything that you can find that helps give any kind of proof helps other psychics. And so, I've got those things. I will be putting them out because I can, I don't say I'd do something if I can't back it up, because this is the internet, but I'm going to put those things out. But it's been very interesting. But also dealing with ghost hunters, I've had to really that's a whole different kettle of fish. And oh, and when I came back into this scene, because I had some weird experiences a few years ago, so I kind of swore off of ghost hunters for a while. And I had such a good time on this one, and then it's turned into a very weird situation. So I'm having to learn how to, because your psychic abilities are your gift. But then when you deal with people in the bigger world, it's also got a business edge. And so I have to learn how to blend the gift with the business end, because I'm too
Yeah.
trusting with people. And in a way, spirits, you can see through a spirit. Spirits can't hide their emotions too much because they're energy. People are very good at, I have to learn, I have to relearn how to read people, and in a way, because now I've become hooked up in a different way. But
Yeah.
I'm very open spiritually. Now I'm having to restructure how I deal with people. I have to go down my little list of, what to look out for, what to, but that won't stop me from being open and helping
Yeah.
people. I love to
100%.
help people.
100%.
And
So after these experiences that have happened, at what point did you decide that you were going to start writing?
oh, well, I started writing about 30 years ago, and then it took until I think I started writing in 96. It took until 2006 to get my first book done, which it was a mess, really, because, I was trying to figure it all out. And then I started getting it together, and then I started working with people like Teal Gray and Cynthia Brundage and Sin Schrader Hill. And we started doing books together, and it just clicked. And so now I, because of things like Dictanote and things like that, I can do stream of consciousness writing. And that's the best way for me, because I'm not very educated. So, but I have a lot of, you know, smarts, but it's a different kind of smarts. I have to do it my way, the way I can do it. So I like to do a stream of consciousness. And we started doing books. And so, like right now, Sin and I are working on a series of Victorian ghost stories. My cats are in here. I don't know how they got in here. So excuse, that's not ghost. That's the wrong day. But we're doing a series of Victorian ghost stories that are just amazing. So, and those are fun. I love to do my books about my experiences in ghost investigating. I'm doing a book about like the near death experience that opened up. I'm doing a book called The Psychic Worm Stitch, which is like some kind of psychic science, which is bizarre. Um, and then we're doing these old Victorian stories, and then we do a little bit of fiction. We've done books like fiction, and then we but you get into this stuff and it's so intense. You're always dealing with people's sorrow. They're coming to you about a dead person. There's always trauma. So for me, the way that I've always been able to survive everything is I always believe if you can laugh, you can live. And so I've been doing all of this and been very intense in all this, death and looking for dead people and talking to dead people. So I thought I'm going to do something that is just fun. So for 30 years, I've been collecting my recipes from my grandmother, who was just the other grandmother, who was a jerk and a half. Great cook, terrible person. And so I saved all the recipes from that and started collecting my own. And then we did a cookbook called My Mean Old Grandma's Good Old Cookbook. And I'm right now working on my Fat Psychic cooking show. It's taken forever, but I'm very close. And it's been so much fun. So, because you got to have something to get that, because you're dipped in it like chocolate. It's just like, boom, you're always having to live in the realm of the dead, and which is okay, but sometimes you gotta be able to get it out of your system. So I started
Yeah.
writing in 2006, and then I have a couple of books that we put on pause because I'm going to redo them. One of them I hated so much. It's a true story, but I hated it so much I had to stop the book because I hate that book, because it was when
Yeah.
some Satanists tried to kill me back in the 80s and 90s. And I thought, I hate that book. And so I stopped that book. So I thought, I'm just going to have to go with some lighter stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're doing some lighter things, and but Sin is very good at doing writing. And when we did the cookbook, we thought, oh, a cookbook, this is going to be so easy. And that was the hardest mofo you have ever seen in your life, because it's so structured.
Yeah.
It's not like you can just say it and type it out and there it is. You have to your brain has to work different. And that poor thing, I just found a whole batch of recipes. I had reached my saturation point to where I said, we'll just save these for something else, which we will. But I just found a whole clutch of recipes I just didn't deal with, because the book is like six 700 pages. I mean, it's like
Wow.
like 678 or something pages, and 1700 recipes and stories. Like, I put in the histories of like the Sin Eater and where funeral foods come from, and so yeah, that kind of thing. So we have fun, but right now we're having a good time writing ghost stories, because there are some pretty interesting ones that I had never heard of before, and I was like, whoa, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's quite funny that you mentioned that, because I've been asked to do a webinar a week on Thursday about the history of uh, Victorian ghost stories at Christmas.
And actually, we're going to do a book of one called
Oh, cool.
Ho Ho. What was it? Ho Ho Horror. But well, and two, it was an accepted form of entertainment. That's what you did at Christmas. That's where the Christmas
Yeah.
Carol comes from. People telling ghost stories. And what really cemented my fabulous love of this stuff is in 1975, when I was 13. We were I was with my mother, my sister-in-law, and her two little babies, and we're sitting. My mother had a fireplace, and it was Christmas Eve. My father and them had gone to go get my brother from the airport, and so we started telling ghost stories, and that was fantastic. And it really cemented my love of Victorian elements, because I still remember it. It just so. And when I do my cooking show, I'm going to do the cooking, but at the end, I tell a ghost story, and I'm going to tell it like a Victorian ghost story. And so
That
while you're
sounds
sitting there
cool.
eating the cookies you just baked, you get a ghost story too. And but the Victorian way of telling a ghost story is so good. There's a beginning, a middle, an end, and a way of, you don't give it away until the end. Don't ask me where these cats are coming from. Um, I
it's
thought they were in the other room. Sorry,
it's
old
a
cat lady.
it's a different cat this time, so we
It's a
don't worry
different
about
cat.
it.
Let's see. When I came in, I was running. I thought, well, I'm running late, and I closed the door. I thought they were in the other room.
Okay, that's fine.
They are, so it's only two, but they're driving me crazy.
Yeah.
So
So when When are you hoping for the Fat Psychic cooking show to be out mainstream?
Oh, I'm trying. I wanted it to be out Thanksgiving, but everything costs money and it takes time. And I've got the website. I've got someone who's going to help me do a little bit of filming so I can do the opening. I'm going to do kind of like a montage. And then I'm hoping to get the first one filmed next week. And then at least be out by Christmas. Well, I was hoping for Thanksgiving, but we're hoping for Christmas. But if not the latest, I want it for New Year's. Because with regular people who are fairly healthy, they can just, this is what I'm going to do and do it. And it's taken me a while, and it's taken a while because of money, and it's taken a while because of just energy. But I just think it's going to be so much fun. So, and people have been going, you've been saying it for a while, but I'm actually very close. It will either be Christmas at the latest New Year's, because I'm doing it. I got to get it done. I got to get it out there. Got to get it done. And but too, I've had to wrap my head around it because I'm a very strange old Southern psychic who, and I have a very strange sense of humor. And I just think it's going to be warped and funny, and they're going to like the stories of my family, because my family were just bananas. And my grandma, she was evil. She was an evil person, but she was raised on a farm. The kids were just had to be workforce. And when she was 7, they would, if you were the girl, they put you up to the counter and you started making biscuits. And then she became the head cook for all the field hands out in Texas. And she was great food, but you did not ask her for a recipe. She would grandma you. She would leave things out of it. So you would, and it was before internet. So my sister-in-law wanted these icebox roll recipes because her rolls were incredible. Well, she say, sure, honey, I'll give it to you. And she would leave something out. And so my sister-in-law thought, oh, I must have done something wrong. Went back and she did something else to it. So it screwed up again. So you didn't never ask grandma for a recipe. And she only liked my oldest brother. She didn't like the rest of us. So she would, because she had had an only child, my father. So she only liked one person at a time. So she would bring him over these gigantic trays of fried apple pies, chicken, cookies, and she'd bring them over and say, these are for Davy. Don't you touch them. And it was so funny. We laughed. I mean, we thought it was hysterical. And he would turn green. He will turn green if you mention fried pies. He will just turn green. Because once she learned that you like something, she would just overload you. And but I didn't get enough of them, so I'm still, but her style of cooking was incredible, and so it inspired me. And then I started doing it. I thought, well, so now I'm going to be the fat psychic cooking, and I'll
I'm
tell
looking
those
forward to
stories when
that.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to buy the wife my mean old grandma's good old cookbook.
Good old cookbook, and
yeah,
I looked at it, and because you can get the Kindle version, the audio version, the paperback, or the hardback. Well, the audio is very interesting, but the Kindle book is like 1,000 pages. It takes
wow,
the audio book goes 29 hours. And
holy
I'm like,
crap!
you have got to be kidding me, because this thing turned out to be like this. We worked on that mother for a solid year. And I
Wow.
thought, she will never want to see my face again. But we had a good time. It was, and then, and we would laugh at, because there's pretty sister and ugly sister recipes. Because my grandma and them, they were very definitely the ugly sisters. And they would eat things that sounded like an autopsy. You did not go to her house and say, "What's on the stove?" because she'd tell you. And it would be like brains and eggs or, skull brains, or it's like, so, oh. So we did the ugly sister one. So while we were doing that, I'd call her, I'd go, "Have you ever heard of this?" And she'd go start gagging, or, there were, I mean, because there's some nasty recipes, but
Oh
people,
yeah,
to me, it's nasty stuff, but, in other cultures, it's hiding, brains and things like that are delicacies,
exactly,
and
exactly.
bloaters
So
taste, kind
yeah,
of thing.
so I could talk to you all night.
Uh-oh.
Okay, well let me put it this way: I could let you talk to me all night,
I'm sorry that I'm such
but
a big mouth today.
no, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. At least you're not like struggling to come out with answers. It's just like it's just flowing and it's perfect.
Oh, thank you.
So you've already mentioned the Fat Psychic cooking show, but what else is on the agenda for
Well,
Mark
I'm
Elliott
also an
Fults?
artist, and so I do this black and white Art Nouveau work. So we're getting ready to do a coloring book of my old black and white ink work. One thing that happened when I came back from my near death experience, I just started doing this intricate. I've always been an artist, but I was real mediocre. And then I came back, and it was tiny details, mosaic, I started doing black and white ink work, which is, people wouldn't realize until because it's a very hard substance, but you can make it very soft, or you can make it very, and I just started turning out these Art Nouveau art pieces. So I'm going to do a book of that. I'm going to, where right now Sin and I are working. I've got the Psychic Worm Stitch. I've got Sin and I are working on The Unquiet Dead, uh, and a Victorian ghost story fiction book. And I think we're going to call it Ho Ho Horror. And then let's see, got the cooking show going on. And then there's something else, but I can't remember. There's
I
never
know there's
a
something.
lack of things to do. Take my word for it.
Yeah,
But she's
I
turning out
I
books like a beast. Oh, and
oh
Teal
yeah,
Gray.
she's
I work with Teal
yeah
Gray, and she we're I've done books and things with her, and we're working on doing fabric designs and things like that, because we Spoonflower, you can design your own stuff and print it out and people can buy it. So I'm thinking about doing fabric designs and things like that, Art Nouveau kind of things.
yeah,
So
and it's quite funny that when I was doing a little bit search of your name, I've actually found something that you're doing in February with somebody that I interviewed last week. Eric, you're going to
oh
the Night
yes,
House.
yes, I was about to go, uh-oh, yes, we're going, that will be the first time I've been at his property. I've done ghost investigations for his property. Now, I don't know how much time we have.
Keep going. You're
Okay,
fine. We've got another 5 minutes at least.
I'll tell you a little story about his place, because there's one ghost at his night house that I'd seen, this young man that was in the basement. And I said, he really likes marbles, And they go, we've been finding marbles everywhere. And so the spirit showed me, and I described, what they used to call the shooter, which is the big one and a little one. And they said, we actually have that one. And I said, well, that was his prime joy. So about a month later, I we have a thrift store not far from where I live, about 6 miles. And I wasn't going anywhere near it that day. And I just felt this need to go to this thrift store. And I go in the thrift store and I'm looking through a section that I usually don't go to. It was like the children's section, toys and whatever. And I look for things to resell. And I'm standing because the spirit, like marbles. So I'm standing in this thrift store, which is like, I live 7, 8 hours away from Eric. I've never been to that place. And I'm standing there, and this woman's voice behind me goes, "Do you like marbles?" And I thought, oh, I need a diaper probably. And I turned around and I said, "Yes, I like marbles." And she says, "They say they're expensive. I just don't know." And she looked like Tangia from Poltergeist. And I look over and there's this bag of antique style marbles with 3 big shooters in it. And I went, the spirit, the spirit wanted those. So I got them and I sent them to Eric. And I said, if you put them down, you'll get reaction. And they've been getting a lot of reaction from the spirit
That's
in the
interesting.
basement, that they find marbles everywhere in that house. So I can't wait to go there. But yeah, we're going to be doing seancing. Hopefully, we're going to get to do like a Victorian black tie seance, because I love to channel and do seancing, and I have instruments and boards I've created. And so, yes, we're going to have fun.
That sounds like fun. Well, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, my friend. Like I said, I could talk to you all night. I'll definitely have to get you on again so we can talk about some of your books that we've not managed to talk about. But for now, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you again. Have a
And thank
great
you for
evening.
having me on.
You're most welcome, my friend. Take care.
Thank you.